Hello, everybody, and welcome one more time to Do As We Do. Today, we are here with El Jefe, my co host, Jeff.
Hey, welcome. Hi from Dallas.
Hello from Dallas, New York, and Houston. Today, we will be talking with a very special guest out of New York. And before I get into that, I want to remind you it's not about if you live. Wait, no. The famous quote is not if you die, but if you live. What would we do then, correct? So, without further ado, I just want to tell you guys a little bit about our special guest today. His name is Steve Salami, and he is a caregiver. And he has a very, very special story. So, I do not want to ruin it whatsoever. But, Jeff, do you want to tell us a little bit what we have going on with Do As We Do?
You bet. So, if this is your first time joining or you're rejoining us, you may be asking yourself, what are we doing here and what is a caregiver? We define a caregiver as someone who regularly helps a family member or a friend with their daily living activities because of old age, disability, mental health disorder. But each day, over 40 million unpaid caregivers do their work out of the goodness of their hearts. And we believe caregivers and their loved ones deserve to live confidently and happily. But there's a problem.
Yeah.
They may be thrust into this and, unexpectedly without having much training. They're likely unpaid and now taking extra financial burden, or they feel alone or overwhelmed with the challenges. I mean, there are so many challenges going on, and especially being a caregiver. Or they may not live near this loved one who they really, are now responsible for caring for. So that's one of many reasons of why the Do As We Do Foundation was created. And so we've launched this with the purpose of supporting and helping caregivers and make sure they thrive each day. And so we're working towards several things. One is providing consistent education and resources, part of the reasons why we do this live weekly. And so again, appreciate you for joining. We are looking forward to providing financial assistance to caregivers in need, as well as just a support community. We're in this together. So we really hope to do those things. We did establish a caregiver relief fund a few months ago. Hopefully you've been able to check that out through our website and maybe give in some form or fashion. And, we're just really excited to continue this mission and, support the foundation.
That's right. And you mentioned something that is a topic that's coming up pretty soon on one of our future shows is, being a long distance caregiver. And I think one of the worst things of some of the caregivers I've spoken to, or one of the biggest anxiety moments is when they get a phone call and you're long distance and you are like, you never know what that phone call is going to bring. But I'm just giving you a sneak peek of future topics that are coming up. And if you are watching us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're sending us in your questions. And I don't want to take any more time. I want to introduce our guest. And here we go. Let's bring in
bring the energy. Bring in the energy.
Let's bring him in. And this is Steve. Welcome to the
What's
show.
up, guys?
And tell us a little bit about yourself and your caregiving role and how it all happened.
Well, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on the show. I live here in New York on Staten Island. I lived here pretty much my whole life, and I lived with mom and dad for a while until I moved to New Jersey in like 2004, and then I moved to California in 2011. And I had the manifest destiny. I was going to live in San Diego, and I'm a lawyer. I was going to open a law practice in California, right? And I had moved out there with my girlfriend and my cat. Was very happy. I love the cat, by the way. And I brought it. I love the cat.
Hey, I know you taught your cat some special tricks, but we'll leave that for later.
I did. Yeah. So we taught Felix. Felix was a toilet trained cat, and a very special cat indeed. So I'll talk about the cat the whole show. The hell with that, everything else. But I was living out there in San Diego with I took the bar exam out there, and I was getting ready to open a law practice in San Diego. And I don't know if I was gonna close down my office in New Jersey or not, but my dad got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the summer of 2011. 2012. I had just moved in 2011. I just moved, and then within 9 months, my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And so I didn't intend to move home. My intention was to kind of check on my dad. So I flew home to see how my dad was doing. And I landed at 6 o'clock in the morning on September 1st, 2012. And by noon, he was in the emergency room with a fever and he was fine. He was home. Yeah. And so within 6 hours, we had to take him to the emergency room. And all kinds of stuff developed from there. They had all kinds of tests. You know how anyone listening that's a caregiver knows things happen out of nowhere. And so one thing led to another. He ended up had the Whipple procedure. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. They basically they rewire your intestinal tract so that when what they do is they take out the head of the pancreas so that to prevent the spread of the cancer, because that's where the pancreatic cancer is, in the head of the pancreas. I mean, I'm a lawyer, but I have more medical knowledge than I care to ever have. And so and this procedure, what it does is because they remove everything surrounding the pancreatic area, like part of the head of the pancreas, I think part of the liver, the intestinal tract, and you need to eat and digest. So what they do is they rewire your intestines and everything. So my dad had this done, and he was supposed to be in the hospital maybe 10 days. And he ended up being in the hospital for about 6 months because he had complications. Yeah, I know, please. He had internal bleeding. He had kidney failure. He had pneumonia. If you name it. My father went through his whole life pretty much without any kind of medical issues. I think he had every medical problem you could imagine. He got them all. And so I never ended up going back to San Diego. Like, my stuff was still in the apartment that I was living in. I got the cat came with me. Felix came back. Felix joined me, but everything else was like left in like a permanent state of flux. So the girl I was dating, we broke up, and she moved somewhere else. The apartment, I put all my stuff in storage. I put my stuff in storage in San Diego for 6 years. It sat in a storage place. $86.14 a month I paid for 6 years. Because I never went back. Because every year, I was like, oh yeah, I'll go back. I went back to visit, but when I was there, the idea of cleaning out a storage facility never really crossed my mind. I wanted to kind of enjoy myself. But I moved home in 20. I kind of moved back in, and the reason was my mother, was not able to drive to the city, New York City. Anybody watching that knows New York knows that the suburbs that surround Manhattan are much different than Manhattan itself. And driving in that traffic is not easy. And to visit my dad, my mother couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. And there was no one else that was going to take her. So I couldn't leave her. And I know my dad needed me. And how could I live in San Diego on the beach with the girlfriend and the cat in good conscience, knowing that my dad needed me like he did? So I made a decision to stay. I couldn't live with myself. It wouldn't be a good life, a normal life. I owed so much to my mom and my dad, and I'll get into the reasons for that in a minute. But anyway, I moved home, and then my mother's health started to go downhill because of it. Her and my dad were together so long that it affected her, kind of like the Twin Towers. When one goes down, the other one goes down. That's very similar. That's the analogy I use. And so I needed to be there to pick up the slack. With in the house, in the business. My mom and dad were business partners. And so I stayed home. My dad, fast forward, he lived until 2016. And then when he died, obviously, I definitely couldn't leave because my mother really wasn't doing too well. And now here we are 4 years later. She's in a hospital bed in the house, and I have the hyperbaric chamber here trying to help her out. So that's a very short, condensed Reader's Digest version of the last 8 years.
So going into that, asking you a question, do you feel that, your father's condition and his passing triggered your mom's dementia, Alzheimer's?
Oh yeah, definitely. And the anxiety and the stress of my mother's, my mother being a caretaker, and because my mom and dad, they were business partners. My mom and dad were real estate and insurance brokers. My father built houses, and my mother and father sold insurance for 30 years. And so when my father got sick, it caused my mother to pick up all his slack. I mean, they had employees that worked for them, but when one of the bosses is not there, my mother was doing all the books, the sales, customer service, and then forgetting all the business. Then in personal, your home, there was nobody here.
Yeah, and I mean, your vibe, if they've been married for so long, her vibe was not going to be the same whatsoever. No. Knowing that her husband's in the hospital, she's trying to run this. I mean, that type of trauma, emotional trauma, really triggers a lot of diseases all at once.
Yeah, and Steve, how did that play into your emotions?
It was very difficult on me. I'll be honest with you. I started doing a lot of drinking to try to take the edge off. That's the truth, because it's very difficult. My life was in shambles. The girl I was dating I had to break up with her, and I had to run a law practice in the middle of all this. Just keep this in mind. I had been an attorney at that point for about 13 years. And so I had a very active law practice in New York and New Jersey. My clients, as empathetic as they were, they needed to be serviced. They didn't care, but they needed their lawyer to perform for them. And I handled litigation, real estate. I mean, you're talking about very complicated stuff. So my life divided between my emotional turbulence with my dad and the girl I broke up with, and my professional responsibilities with my law practice. Very difficult. So yeah, I started doing a lot of drinking to try to forget about stuff. That doesn't help, as we all know. I haven't had a drink in 3 years now, almost. So but when you go through it, thank you, I appreciate that. But when you go through stuff, sometimes your first go-to after a long day is, let me have a drink, and then it just spirals from there. And so, I learned from that. Now, when you start doing things like that, now you have two problems. You have the problem you were dealing with. Now you have a drinking problem. So,
for sure. But it's the reality. It's a true reality, and I'm glad that you bring it up, because that's one of those topics that people are like, it's so much stress that they need something to relieve it, and then, like you said, it causes a second problem.
It causes a big second problem. So, but throughout it all, I knew I had to be here, because if I literally physically wasn't here, my mother would be in the house by herself, alone.
Yeah,
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that to my mother.
And you talked about the guilt feeling, like you are over there and you get a phone call and you're always feeling guilty. How did you deal with that? And when did you actually okay, forget this, I'm just going, or was it right away?
What do you mean in terms of?
When you were in San Diego, because you were kind of a long distance caregiver at that point, emotional support and just.
I found out in, I think, late July of 2012 that my dad had been diagnosed, and he was okay. Like for the first month or so, he was cool. I came home to visit around the Labor Day holiday, because I was like a longer weekend. I had the time to spend, so I figured I'll just come home and see how he was. But then immediately within 6 hours of me landing, he needed to go into the hospital, and it went from there like a mudslide. I didn't really have a choice but to be there, because he needed to go to the emergency room at noon. I landed at 6 a.m. at JFK Airport. At noon, he needed to go to the hospital emergency room in New York City. My mother wasn't going to take him, and I wasn't going to wait for an ambulance. I said, Dad, get in the car. We're going to go. And we went. And then he was in the hospital from that day and for maybe like 6-7 months straight, almost, pretty much.
Wow.
What choice did I have? It was thrust upon me.
No one's really prepared, right, Steve? And that's where I like, let's take a step further back. Like, do you think your parents were prepared at all for this? Like in terms of, insurance or, wills, like how did that look from your family structure?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My family is unique. I don't know if you see all these plaques behind me, all these number ones.
Yeah.
These are my dads. These are all my dads. My dad worked at MetLife. He began working in 1972 at MetLife. These number ones, he was the number one agent in the country. All these number ones behind me, you can see them all.
Awesome.
And we're unique in the sense that my dad was in the insurance business. So he had the best insurance you could possibly imagine. He had MetLife insurance. I know a lot of people don't have that luxury, but my mom and dad were insurance brokers. And so insurance-wise, they were prepared. My mom and dad had, and my mother still has, some of the best insurance you could imagine, which is the reason he was in Sloan Kettering for as long as he was, because they knew he had the coverage and they gave him the best care he could possibly get. If he didn't have it, I'm sure that he wouldn't have been able to stay there that long. In terms of estate planning, my mom and dad didn't. As an attorney myself, I never got involved in my mom and dad's will. They had a lawyer, but I came to find out that my dad did a will in 1975 when I was born, leaving everything to my mother, and then my mother leaving everything to him. And they call them "I love you" wills, reciprocal wills, but they never changed them. They never changed them. So mom and dad did the wills in 1975 when I was born, and before my sister was even born, and that was the end. And so they didn't have any estate planning per se. And even though they were in the real estate business, they never did anything with that. So they had half the battle, the insurance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Like when it comes to those kinds of details, thinking about that in advance is not always at the top of your mind, but at least especially the insurance. And congrats to your dad on that success over that time. I mean, that's awesome. Real quick, we do have some folks that are saying hello to you, Steve. We got our friend Laura down in Houston, as well as our friend Norma down in Houston. So thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So
sure. Ladies, how are you? Nice to see you.
Our next question is, did you start to see her anxiety creeping up? Was she diagnosed? How did all it come about with your mom?
It was pretty easy. Let me adjust my seat here. It was in my mother's case, it was pretty easy to see what was happening. My mother had 180 IQ, very smart. My mother was a calculus teacher. She taught high school seniors calculus at the local high school here for about 10 years. Very, very intelligent.
I hate math. I hate it.
I know. I hear you. I hear you, me both. I know. Believe me. I don't understand it myself, but some people are very good at it. I'm okay with it, but it's not my favorite.
I mean, who uses that?
No one. It's basically useless.
You have to have a brain built for that.
That's what I mean. Yeah. But because of her acumen and because of her abilities, any slippage is very, very apparent. It's easy to see because when you would speak to my mother, you could tell sometimes she couldn't find the right word, and there were things that I would give her things, and then they would just go missing. And at first, we didn't think anything of it because we just figured, oh, maybe somebody else took it or moved it. But it kept happening. It became a pattern that we would give her things, and then they would just go missing, and nobody knew where they were. And so that's when we started to realize something was not right. That was right around the time my dad got sick, 2012, 2013 time, that it started to come to light. So, when my dad got out of the hospital, he actually took my mother for treatment. All right. So, he was the one he was so obviously good of a partner that he didn't care that he had pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. It's like, wow, he still was checking on your mom, knowing that something was wrong with her, even though he was going through. Oh, how beautiful.
My father, to the day he died, was more concerned that my mother was taken care of than his own condition. He said it to me in the hospital. He said, listen, just take care of your mother. He goes, I'm going to die. He says, Stephen, we're all going to die. Just take care of your mother. He said this to me. I can't count how many times. So that's what I did. I promised them that I would. And I promised my mom and dad a long time ago that if they ever needed me, that I would be here for them. And so I kind of feel like I have to because I owe it to them. I owe my life to them. And so I don't mind to give my life back to them.
And it's a difficult conversation, but when you hear it from your dad and you're seeing him in that condition and he's telling you, I'm going to die, like, it's really difficult. How did you deal with that? I mean, you just step up and keep going, but.
My father was pretty good at describing things. My dad was Iranian. He was Middle Eastern. He was very tough, very tough. And my father lost his father when he was 14. So my father always would tell me the story about how he had to become almost like a father figure because he was the oldest son. His dad died suddenly when he was 14. His dad was taken to the hospital in Iran. They gave him too much morphine because that's how they used to treat patients. They used to give them morphine. They gave him too much morphine and he died because of it. And my dad at 14 had to run the family as the oldest son. He would always tell me this. And I looked at it like, my dad lost his dad when he was 14. I said, I'm lucky. I had my dad until I was in my 40s almost. I have to look at it like I had a benefit. And he said to me, Stephen, even Alexander the Great died. He said this to me, even Alexander the Great died. He says, we're all going to die. He says, so I'm going to die. Take care of your mother. I love you. And that was always the message. And it's the truth. You know, everything on this earth lives and dies. Plants, animals, humans. We all are born and we all die. And if you look at it that way, it hurts, but it's part of life. You know, it's a deal.
Yeah, for sure. It's just always a difficult reality to accept when you love somebody so much. And let's talk about your mom a little bit and how you decided to go into the Oxy tank. Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, I watch YouTube like everybody else. Like, everybody has their Instagram or whatever. And when you log in or whatever, you open up the app on your phone, you have a feed. You don't know how the hell they know you watch these types of videos, but this stuff pops up that is interesting to you, and you don't have any idea how.
Remarketing. You're like, they're spying on me, but it's called remarketing.
Yeah, exactly. And so, maybe about 2 years ago. What is this? 2020? Maybe like 20. Maybe not even 2 years ago. Less than that. I was watching. I was on YouTube, and Joe Namath. You guys, I think I might have told you this. He was the quarterback of the Jets. He was my dad's favorite player. I felt like this was like a sign. He was interviewed by Howard Stern, and not even the whole interview came up on my feed. It was just a clip of the interview with Namath where he was talking on Howard Stern about how he cured his own brain cancer. And I don't know if you know about Namath. He was a renowned partier, drinker. He's a character, Broadway Joe, the whole thing. And so I said, I have to watch this. I'm like, there's no way this guy cured his own brain damage. He's got to be drinking again. That's what I said. So I watch it, and the video was from June 24th, 2019. And the day my dad died was June 24th, 2016. So now it's the same day that my dad died, not the same year. And it's my dad's favorite football player talking about how he went down to Florida and had hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatments. He did 3 sets of 40, 40, 40, and 40. And they checked his brain by MRI after each treatment. And what they did was they saw that slowly after each block of treatment, the proof of whatever they come up with in the MRI showed that it was dissipating. And then by the 120th treatment, it was gone. And I said, okay, this is a sign. I got to look into this. And so I started to, and I found a local chiropractor, local 45 minutes away from my house, but still local for me. There's a chiropractor here, Dr. Frank Mandarino. He's in New Jersey. They have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and I contacted them, and I started going there. And it's $150 a treatment. It's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
So I paid, I think, like $1,100 for 20 treatments. They give you like a discount. If you do like it's Costco, like if you buy it in bulk, they give you
a package. Yeah, there's a package, just like the massage package. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we did that. But now the rub here is that now I live on Staten Island. It's like 45 minutes away, and I'm on the second floor. And getting my mother, it's like getting a kid dressed for school. It's essentially de facto what it is, because my mom doesn't understand what we're doing. Which with dressing her, taking her down 2 flights of stairs into the car, 45 minutes away, back into an elevator, up to the second floor, into the hyperbaric chamber. She doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. So it was challenging. And after a while, it was expensive and it was time consuming. And that's when I started to look into, so I said, I got to buy one of these things because I'm paying $150 a shot. And it's really only effective like exercise if you do it consistently.
If you continue to do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can't go once a month and expect to see any benefit. So they even said you need to do it like 5-6 weeks if you can. So then I got on the track of, okay, well, I asked the doctor in Jersey, I said, where did you buy this from? And they put me in direct contact with the company. It's called Oxy Health, and they're in California. And so I contacted them, and then we started to put a plan together on how to get one of these chambers into my home. So that's the genesis of it.
And how often, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Steve, I was going to, expand on, you said the 3 sets of 40. Is that like once a day, or like what was the like recommendation in that regard? And like, how did you, obviously you just started doing research, and like, where did you go for that kind of info?
Well, I just Googled it, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And I looked for research that connected Alzheimer's with hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Because there is not a lot, if you Google this stuff on the internet, there's not a lot of research on it, but the research that is available does show positive outcomes, return of cognitive function, people, they're more engaged. They're able to speak and eat and sit up and talk. You can see the return. And I saw it in my own mother. And, my thought was, she's not getting any better as it is. What do I have to lose to take her to New Jersey 3 or 4 days a week and give this a try? And so we did it, and it started to get, I started to see results from it. And name it, when I say three sets of 40, I believe he went every single day for 40 days. I think that's what, and it's like a 2-hour thing, because it's not like you go in the chamber for 20 minutes. You're supposed to be in there for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So I believe it's like it's like 15 minutes. They submerge you, quote unquote. They don't do any submersion, but they increase the pressure. Then you're in there for like an hour and a half, and then they slowly decrease the pressure and take you out. So all in, it's like a 2-hour ordeal.
And how does it feel to go in there? And like, what does your mom feel? I know you guys have to follow his channel and see some of the amazing videos he has on there with his mother. But how does it feel? How does she feel when she goes in there? Is it relaxing? Is it what are some of the? I'm pretty sure you've gone in there yourself to test it.
Yeah, it's funny. My assistant Jeff is here. We just put him into it. He had to come out. He's like, Steve, it's too hot in here. So when my mother doesn't have, like, she doesn't complain, but she doesn't have the cognitive abilities that we do to communicate. So I have to kind of check on her. But normally she falls asleep in there. The feeling of it is like being submerged 10 feet underwater. Anyone that's done scuba, that is the effect of it. And so what happens is they have oxygen compressors, and what they do is they normally take ice and they run the oxygen through like a chamber that has ice and water in it, so that when the air blows into the chamber, it's cool inside the chamber. And that's one of the things that they do to keep it cool inside. So that's one thing. But it is like putting your head about 10 feet underwater, like going in the deep section of the pool and going to the bottom. So there is a little bit of an adjustment. It's not awful though. It's worth it. Believe me, it's worth it. Yeah,
definitely. And currently, how many times a week, or how many times are you using it for your mother?
Today's the 9th of July. I think today was the 7th treatment. We skipped one day because I wanted to give her a little bit of a break from it, because I have to literally physically pick her up. We have a hospital bed here in the house, and we walk her around a little bit, but it's easier if I just pick her up and then just lower her right into it. So, she doesn't exactly understand what's going on. So I try to explain it to her. So I just, I gave her like 6-7 treatments in a row. I said, okay, Ma, you can have the day off. And then also I can have the day off, because being a caregiver, you do need a day off, because psychologically knowing that you have to go in and do all this, it's nice to have a day off one day. Yeah. So I had one day off. So we've done 7 treatments. Every time I do it, I do a very quick video of mom before and after this, just to diary the progress. And I'm hoping that we can show some results in 30, 40, 50s. I mean, it's here at the house. What else are we doing? I live here. I mean, she's in the bed all day anyway. What's an hour and a half in the tube? What do I care?
Yeah. And I mean, you will see results. There's so many studies behind it. Just, how the plaque in our brain starts developing because of lack of oxygen, and we all lack oxygen. So that's when all these diseases start happening. So, hey, kudos to you. I'm so excited that you're doing this. And I can't wait to see the results, because I know there's going to be results.
Sharing. I mean, sharing it is like, so many people struggle. They hold this stuff internally, the emotion aspect, the creative thoughts, the research. I mean, and so the fact that you're sharing, hopefully will inspire some others. I'm sure that's part of your goal, or even at least your ability of not holding it inside, right?
Well, no, listen, the goal here is to we're very big on social media. When I retired from the lawyering in October, I had to get out of the business. But the idea is we were able to reach so many people on social media because of my friend Jeff, I'm 44. I have no idea, but he does. He's 25. He understands. It's true. But and because of him, because of his abilities, his capabilities running the social media, we were able to reach so many people that we had more business than we could even service. We had to turn people away. I mean that. And I said, I could take this dynamic synergy that we have with this law practice and this social media, and I could bring other people into my world, and I could help people, because I know how helpless people feel with Alzheimer's. There is an alternative remedy. You don't need to just use these big pharma, Namenda, and all these other patches that only hold it off. And that's all that it does. It holds it off. It doesn't address it. And from my research and my understanding, a large part of Alzheimer's is a lack of oxygen and blood flow to the brain. This is my understanding of it from my research. And this is exactly what hyperbaric oxygen therapy addresses. So just to give people an idea, there are different costs. The one that we got my mother is $8,000. And the company OxyHealth, they will finance it like a car. You put down $2,300 and you pay $800 a month. They will ship it to you and you pay it off monthly. They work with you. And my goal is to connect people with this company so that more people can use it and get better and get healthier and actually open some eyes.
Yes. Wow. And I mean, and that's why we're all here and we're so happy you're with us sharing, because sharing is caring. Like, it sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. Because if you haven't been through it, you don't understand it until you get to that point. And if you have people that you know that are going through something similar and help you through it, it changes the dynamic completely. It changes the way you feel. It changes the way you address it. It changes the way you treat that other person. Because at sometimes caregivers tend to be angry, but it's not anger. It's just the hopelessness of not being able to help. So that's why Do As We Do is here. And we are so excited to have you and sharing all this information with us, Steve.
I'm telling you, the biggest, and what I've learned when you're fighting these terrible diseases, if you lose hope, you're done.
You're done.
And you're done. And my father never lost hope. Even he went through the chemo. My father lived 4 years with pancreatic cancer. 4 years. That's like unheard of. Pancreatic cancer normally you're done in like 6 months. But he made it 4 years.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Now my mother, she has this condition. I don't lose hope because of this. I want people out to know there is hope. There is a possibility that you can fight this deadly disease and you can maybe recover. You may not be perfect. You may not be back to where you were. But if you watch the videos on my site, you could see even after 7 treatments, my mother is more verbal and she's more interactive and she talks and she says things that 7 days ago she wasn't able to.
Here,
I think I'm still on the show. I don't know. It says live. Things are going in.
Your commitment to your family is so moving, and yes,
thank you.
It is. And once you guys follow him on Instagram and see some more of the footage he has on there, it's just so moving and such a beautiful. That's the thing. Caregivers don't do it because of the money. They don't do. Most of them are unpaid. They do it because they love that other person and they want to make sure that they are giving them all their love and hope. Like you said, hope is the most important thing. Positive thoughts. Once somebody gives up in anything, not just in health, but in life, it's really hard. So,
well, I'll tell you this. I have been paid. My mother and father paid me. They gave me my life. I got paid already, and I'm paying them back. I got like a lawyer. I got a retainer. They retained me a long time ago. They wrote the check with their love and their commitment to me. They helped me become the person that I am and give me all that I have. So I owe it to them. I could never repay them what they did for me.
And that's beautiful because not everyone is on that same page. I think with age and with life happening, things change in you. And some people are just like, you already know, like, I feel the same way you feel. Like, I owe it to my parents no matter what. I'm going to do whatever it takes and get them whatever they need. But not a lot of people think like that. And what I try to explain to people when they feel so hurt that the other person doesn't feel that way, I'm like, you can't change that. Either it comes out of your heart or it doesn't. And you can't change that. But it's beautiful to see the people that do have kindness, that do have love. And, nobody teaches you that. And that is something so important that I always try to explain. You either have it.
If you have it or you don't. And we're leaders. Leaders think a certain way, and we may have to lead the way and show people, say, listen, if you think outside the box, outside the tube, so to speak, there is a path that is available out there, because most people, they just and that's how I was. I defaulted to what the doctors told us. That's just the way I was thinking.
Because you don't know better, and you want the best for them. So at that point, you're like, well, that's the professional. But then once you start seeing these things, you're like, oh, I gotta dig in myself. I gotta find a better way, and that's what you did.
I think we should get Joe. I think we should get Joe Namath on your podcast and have him talk about how he helped his brain, because that is what inspired me to think differently. I was going along with what my mother was under the care of the best neurologist in New York City. His name is Dr. Martin Sadowski. He's with NYU Langone. He's a well-respected, highly accomplished neurologist. Great guy. And NYU Langone is known as the best neurological Alzheimer's center in New York City. I mean, maybe in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so because of Joe Namath, I went a different direction, and I've seen improvement in my mother as opposed to this medication that she was on. So there's something to be said for, this thinking outside the box with these kinds of conditions, because there is another way, and there is hope. I want people to know there is hope with this condition.
Right. And one more thing, with all these different conditions, they are all triggered by stress. They're all triggered by so many underlying things that are in our daily lives. And so sometimes we need to step back and kind of just, as a caregiver, also take a deep breath, take a day for yourself, take that time to recover, because you're moving so fast that sometimes, you don't want to end up being cared for because you put yourself like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was telling you, I developed, what is it? When you have your face is Bell's palsy. Uh-huh. I developed it due to stress in December. And, I think it's important for caregivers, get rest, get sleep, drink water, okay, exercise, eat right. You have to take care of yourself. The classic example they give you is when you're on a plane, when the mask comes down, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you help someone next to you. And the only way that you could help somebody else is if you are at full operating capacity. You can't help somebody else if you're at 50%. Kind of like, at the end of the night when you plug your cell phone in, when it's at the little red bar, you got to plug your own phone in and get back to 100% before you can help anybody else. And that's the biggest message that I could give anybody. You have to exercise. Really, it makes you feel better. Don't default to things like I did. Don't start drinking and thinking that's going to make you feel better. It's not going to help you. It doesn't help you. I'm telling you, I tried it. It doesn't help. Exercise, eating right, getting sleep, a lot of water, and, be spiritual, pray. And if you guys believe in God, ask God for help. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's a great point. And talking about Kimberly, just put a comment up there. She got shingles at 40 due to stress. And our body starts reacting so many different ways once it's just triggered and explodes. Yeah. And, your skin starts changing. You start feeling it in so many different areas. So great message. Yeah.
It's true, because you'll fall apart.
Yeah, it comes from a real place. And you being able to share that hopefully is helping somebody else who may be having these same struggles, right?
It's not, I'm telling you, there's hundreds of millions of people out there. And so that's I feel like it's my personal mission to help people, because I know that helpless feeling. You see someone that you love unable to communicate. They don't know who you are anymore. I'm hoping that if we can change even one person's life to bring someone else back, we've done our job. And I believe that.
Yeah, definitely. That's the whole reason why we're here today. And we're so happy that you're sharing, because it's a whole different perspective, same topic, same love, same selflessness. And it's just, we have 40 million caregivers, unpaid caregivers in the US. And fortunately, I don't feel like I'm an unpaid caregiver, but there's people that do have to pay the rent. They do have to go to work. They do have to come home and take care of a loved one. And that's why we're here, because we want to try and help out. And even if it's just with knowledge, with a story that people can relate with.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that the hyperbaric chamber treatment becomes more widespread and acknowledged and accepted. And there could be facilities where people can go get this treatment, hopefully at a reduced cost. It's expensive now. But, in life, things that are expensive normally are worth it. You get what you pay for. So just think about this for a minute. And I will tell you this much. One of the things you had asked me before, I'll give you a little, not a trick per se, but what worked for me. My mother has a treating physician that I showed him her progress before I did this whole thing with the Instagram. And he put in his medical report that she has shown improvement using the chamber. And because of that, my mother's guardian, who's appointed by the court, she's got a legal guardian and everything, recommended that the court authorize the payment for this treatment. So anyone out there, if you have a treating physician and you might want to recommend to him, maybe you want to take the first 10 or 15 treatments, pay for them yourself, document the person's progress. if you can prove, this is the lawyer in me, if you can prove that the person is showing improvement and an incline and an increase in their condition, and the doctor puts it in his report, you might be able to get the medical insurance company to pay for it. You can make a very strong argument that the condition is improving and that it's a medical necessity.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Very good advice.
Very, very good advice, because nobody even knows that that's something that you can do.
Yeah.
Try it. Call me. I'll put you in touch with the right people. I tell people I put my phone number on the YouTube channel right up there. I put it up there. I tell people, call me up. I don't care. I'll answer the phone. I'm a real person. This is really happening. This is very real. I take it seriously. It's my mother. And if I can help someone else that has this ability, I feel like I've accomplished something. So it's very important to help each other in this world. I really believe that.
Steve, I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I was just reading a while back about the oxygen, and it's been around for a very, very long time, but only like the 1% of, class level knew about it, because they had it so hidden, and it helps you live longer. It helps you, politicians use it. Like it was a hidden secret, and now it's coming out a little bit more, but it's been around for a very long time, curing a lot of diseases. Athletes
use it. LeBron James uses it. I mean, this is very well known that athletes use hyperbaric. I think Michael Jackson even had one.
Yeah.
That it's really mainly was used for wound care. People that had wounds, if you had a surgery and the incision point didn't heal properly, it helps bring blood flow to the area, almost like acupuncture, similar, where it brings blood flow to the area to heal the wound faster. So a lot of athletes, after a game, they'll get into the hyperbaric chamber because it increases that oxygen and blood flow. Oxygen's everything. Without it, we wouldn't be anywhere. Yeah. Put your head underwater for 30 seconds and see how badly you need oxygen. See how important it is. So,
you have it in one of the bedrooms?
I have it right here. I have it right here in the living room. What are you kidding? It's right next to
I bet it's heavy.
bedrooms. No, it's not. It's actually pretty lightweight. It's round. It's like a tube. It looks like a tube of toothpaste. That's what it looks like.
Wow.
And it has a zipper. And I just take my mother. I lower her right into it. I have the hospital bed. I've got the TV, the sofa, and then I've got the tube right here next to the banister. I don't have to go too far.
Hey, and we purposely didn't bring in the B-roll because we want them to go check out your channel. We want them to go follow you because you have such an amazing story and what you're doing. And that's why. So make sure you guys follow him on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, I tell people, if you follow me on Instagram and you write to me, that really is me writing to you. I'll give you my number. I will tell you how to get in touch with this company in California. So people have already written to me on Instagram and asked me, I already put them in touch with this company, and they're buying the chamber for themselves. Now, this is a real thing. Don't go buy a car and finance it. Finance the tube. You don't need the car. I tell people,
you'll live longer. You'll live longer if you get it to pay off the car.
It's the truth. But here's the thing. If you get one of these, right? After you use it, you could sell it to somebody else. You'll get your money back. It's not like you're stuck with it. You know what I mean? So this is an investment. You use it, the person recovers or whatever happens. You could sell it to somebody else for a reduced cost. So it's not like you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. You can recap what you put into it. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Steve, you've been so gracious with your time, your comments, your insight. Is there anything else? We have lots of viewers chiming in with, appreciative of you sharing that story, and your commitment to your family is there. Is there anything else you want to share?
I just want anyone that might be watching it, just think alternatively. Watch the Joe Namath interview. He says it all. He's lucid. He's clear. If you compare his interviews to the way he used to talk, he sounded like a fighter in the 15th round of a prize fight. Now he sounds perfectly clear-headed. Think differently. Don't just march to the beat of what the doctors tell you. Of course, the doctors are the authority, but I want you to think outside. Do your own research. Look into it. This hyperbaric chamber therapy is helping my mother. It's a real thing. I don't get paid for any of this. They're not writing me a check to help promote them, but this is the real deal. I want people to forget Alzheimer's. That's what I tell them. That's my mantra. I'm going to make T-shirts, forget Alzheimer's, and hopefully we can all work together to make that a reality. Call me. If anybody wants, call me.
Awesome. Diana?
Thank you so much. And we'll definitely have people follow you and go to your Instagram channel and get your information there. And we're about to wrap up, but we really want to thank our sponsors for making this happen. We want to thank Approved Shield and Spherix, I'm a Soap Addict, Hustle Aesthetics, Salon D, Rich B, Short Productions, Blue Jay, AK Realty, and all these other ones that are coming pretty soon. And we do want to ask you, if you can donate, please donate. And if you need assistance, please fill out the form at doaswedo.com.
Yeah, we have lots of people losing their jobs, and this need does not go away. And so, as Diana mentioned, at the doaswedo.org, we have the foundation. We ask for those donations. That helps us. 100% of those donations go back to the people that we're supporting. We're all volunteers in this, so we appreciate that support. And if you joined us later in the broadcast, just a quick reminder on, we created this foundation as a way for education and resources for this community of caregivers. And so we appreciate you joining, and we look forward to future topics. Diana, we have a great
we have some special guests coming up for next week. We have Kathy and Becca from Spherix, so they have a really awesome story to share with us. We also have Louis Partida coming up, a casting director here from Dallas that has an amazing story. His brother died from AIDS, started foundation, and I won't give you more, but just giving you sneak peeks of what's coming. And just stay tuned, and remember, hey, check us out on all our social. Follow us on Do As We Do, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and also on LinkedIn. And I want to thank you so much for your time, guys, and we will definitely see you next time.
It's not if you
die, but if you live. Until next time.